see those voices. I
have a question though.
Yes, ma'am.
Out of the three of us, who's your favorite?
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt that Gage is my favorite. His voice is phenomenal. You're sort of like my he's like my home improvement Wilson guy.
Gage, I have a seat over here. Come on over here.
There's a theater of the mind right there.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go, because nobody sees it. Although that would be funny if you put the picture right on you.
There you go.
There it is. There it is. No, but hey, so we all know who you are. I'm going to start, Liza. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the world.
Sure. I'm Liza Govan. I'm the sales manager for Curtis Media right here in Goldsboro.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am?
And I am Cariana KT Taylor. I'm the program director, on-air personality as well for 92.7 Jams, but you can also hear me on 97.7 KD Country and 96.9 The New Pulse FM.
And sir?
Jeff Farrow, program director, morning show host for FM 98.3 WGBR, afternoon drive on 97.7 KD Country, and chief operator of Curtis Media Group East.
Welcome to For the Record, a Wayne County Chamber of Commerce podcast, where real conversations meet real impact. We dive into the stories, insights, and experiences that shape our world, bringing you expert voices, thought-provoking discussions, and a fresh perspective on the topics that matter most. For the Record is proudly sponsored by Atlantic Casualty Insurance Company, TA Loving Company, Goldsboro Builders Supply, PDM Professional Data Management, UNC Physicians Network, and Butterball. We're grateful for their support in making these conversations possible. And for the record, we're glad you're here.
Hey, Wayne County, this is Todd Walker. And for the record, I'm here with our Curtis Media superstars. And I can't believe you exist. Because normally, I told you I'd bring this back. Because you all see or hear them as we said, yeah, they're definitely there. But theater of the mind, I thought that was really interesting because, typically we hear your voices, but now it's great for the folks to see you, and deservingly so, because as I told you before we went on, I think you three are three of my most favorite people here in Wayne County. When I think of the radio, when I think of sounds, when I think of amazing voices, when I think of, honestly, community involvement and giving back, you three certainly epitomize that. So thanks for being here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
You got to see those voices.
I have a question though.
Yes, ma'am.
Out of the three of us, who's your favorite?
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt that Gage is my favorite. His voice is phenomenal. You're sort of like he's like my home improvement Wilson guy.
Gage, I have a seat over here. Come on over here.
There's a theater of the mind right there.
Exactly.
There you go, because nobody sees it. Although that would be funny if you put the picture right on you.
There you go.
There it is. There it is. No, but hey, so we all know who you are. I'm going to start, Liza. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the world.
Sure. I'm Liza Govan. I'm the sales manager for Curtis Media right here in Goldsboro.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am?
And I am Cariana KT Taylor. I'm the program director, on-air personality as well for 92.7 Jams, but you can also hear me on 97.7 KD Country and 96.9 The New Pulse FM.
Man, and also everywhere I go, you and Jeff, and we're going to get to you, Jeff. Last week saw you out at an event in Raleigh, which you just crushed with Governor Stein there. Thank you so much for that. And sir?
Jeff Farrow, program director, morning show host for FM 98.3 WGBR, afternoon drive on 97.7 KD Country, and chief operator of Curtis Media Group East. Okay, so it is, so I'm actually kind of not blushing or so, but I hear your voices. And so it is interesting, as we're driving and we're just starting off with our days, we depend on radio. And I say we, I should say me for me, but I know for so many folks, the DJ has been something near and dear to my heart since I was a kid, and so God bless you all. Thanks for being here. And we're going to jump right into really starting at what in the world, how did you all get into this career field? Sorry, I couldn't get that out. It's not one of the questions up there right off, but how do you get into it? And I'll start with KT.
Okay. So for me, I went to North Carolina A&T State University.
Yes, ma'am.
And I received a Bachelor's of Science in Journalism and Mass Communication. My concentration was multimedia. And what that encompasses is you pretty much get a choice on what you want to do when it comes to journalism. Do you want to do print, or you want to do TV, or you want to do radio? And I think for me, I was very nervous to be on the camera and read teleprompters and all of that. I knew that I wanted to speak, but I just, that wasn't. And then, writing stories, that's great, but I wanted something to do with my voice, And so we have a radio station, very, very big college radio station up in the Triad. And I went in there one day and I was like, hey, what can I do? And they're like, you could be on the street team. And I'm like, that's not being on air. But one day just so happened, they were doing a show for comedian Cheryl Underwood. And she had a syndicated show, and the person who was supposed to do the localized part of it, they just was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. And my operations manager, Dee Cherie, she came in and she said, you're up. I mean, it was just like a regular day, and I did it. And they're like, she has to do it like for the rest. And it Murder, She Wrote.
And that was it, huh? Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Lisa,
that was 10
you?
years ago.
10 years?
Yeah, over 10.
Mine's nothing anywhere near exciting like that. No. Most people don't know I had a 17-year career in banking, and the last leg was at BB&T, and I managed a business analyst team for electronic banking. And when I was 38, had an unexpected pregnancy with my son. I thought, how is this even possible at 38 years old? So when he was born, I had the luxury to stay home with him for 8 years. And when it was time to go back to work, I didn't want to do what I did before. I wanted something different. I wanted to change. So I got a real estate license. I got an insurance license. I'm like, no, that's still not it. And right across the street from me was Brad Hood, is the general manager of 107.9 with Beasley Media. And I found out about an opportunity there with the radio station, and I applied, but I had to beg for the job. Yeah. They did not hire me right off.
Way.
And I interviewed 2 or 3 times. And then I finally just told the guy, I said, are we going to do this or not? Like, I need to move on with something else if we're not going to make this happen.
Right.
So, yeah. So here I am now, and 10 years later.
10 years and 10 years as well. Wow. Well, and then Jeff, it's been 3 decades?
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, I graduated high school with no plan, which I don't recommend, but I did. I didn't know what I was going to do. Goofing off one day with a friend of mine, happened to see an ad in the Delaware State News classified section for the local radio station that wanted a news stringer. Didn't know what a news stringer was. That's where you go to different events and press conferences and record people to cut them up on tape and have it for the next day. So I sent in, they wanted a tape of your voice reading articles, and all I had was one of those mini micro cassette recorder things.
Right.
I mailed that in with a brief resume, forgot about it, and then a little while later they called me. They didn't have a way to play the tape, but they wanted me to come in anyway. So I said, okay.
That's sweet.
So went on in, interviewed, got the position. So I spent the first year and a half, almost 2 years in radio doing news, which I hated. I was trying to get to the music side as quickly as I could, and it finally happened. I was enrolled in Delaware Technical and Community College at the time with broadcasting and journalism. But what I found, at least at that particular establishment, what they were teaching was not what the job was. And I was already kind of getting schooled at my job on what I'm supposed to get schooled on in the college. So I dropped out of the college and just went, all my guns to the radio station, which was part-time at the time. Then just kind of worked my way up, just got to the music side, did overnights, did 7 to midnight, did afternoons, did middays, and then mornings. And then once I got in the mornings, never looked back.
Yeah, that's where it's at, right?
So,
that's where.
Well, I enjoyed middays a whole lot more than
Yeah.
I did mornings. It took a while for them to convince me to stay in mornings, but now it seems I can't get out of mornings.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, I love doing mornings. I absolutely love it now. I think of the 36 years I've been doing radio, probably about 22 of them have been doing mornings.
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
Well, that's a good way to wake up. I can say this because you and I both have a Delaware connection because I was stationed at Delaware 4 different times in my Air Force career. I probably heard your voice at some point, did not even know it, but I do love the fact that for all 3 of you, the passion that you had, because I can see when you're smiling, when I look at you, you love what you do.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that. And Liza, I know with you, I see you everywhere as well. You represent Curtis Media great, but you represent the entire city well as the president of DGDC. The list goes on and on of the other things that you're doing for the community. That's amazing, but it had to start somewhere. And so tell us, let's go back a little bit. How was growing up? Is this where you learned a lot of your leadership styles? Was where you grew up and through the folks you were surrounded with?
I'd say the leadership actually came from BB&T, very well-run organization. And as a manager, you're always put through training, and they had online training and classes that you could attend. And I worked with stellar people and stellar leaders, and I learned it's a whole different world in corporate versus being in a radio station, a different caliber of people, a different mindset. But that's where I learned the core skills needed to manage a team. And I did that for 17 years. BB&T was the last leg. But here in the community, once I did, when it was time to come back to work, and I wanted to come back to work, I didn't know my community because I always worked operations. So we're behind the scenes, we're with computers, nobody knows us. I thought, how do I get involved? And I went to the Paramount Theater, and I made an appointment with Sherry Archibald and asked about volunteering. So she was gracious and put me on the volunteer team. And then I began working part-time, just while I was a stay-at-home mom, working part-time for the Paramount. And that's where I started to meet our community. And then when I went to work in radio, it actually helped to know some of the people out there in the community. And as I volunteered more and met more people, the more I wanted to get involved. And then as I was working in radio, I would make sure that we're visible out there, and Center Street Jams, just always being a part of Center Street Jams and volunteering. And Aaron was gracious to let me come and serve on a committee with there. So you had to start somewhere, and joining the DGDC and starting at that committee level and then growing in that to where I am today. I look back, and it is a journey, as what KT was saying, but everything is a journey, and they're building blocks that are so important too. I think so many people want to start off at this high level. You cannot discount that foundation that you're building as you're going along in life. There's so many lessons to learn, so many people to meet, so many people to learn from. So that's how I got where I am now. Just building those blocks, just day by day.
I love that because it is a foundation, and it takes time, right? I mean,
it does.
You've got to what was the best way to say it? Somebody says you got to pay your dues or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's a patience to that, and you have to see. And did that start at a young age? Was that something when you were in high school or younger? Did you?
Probably did start in high school. I grew up in New Jersey, actually. And the school that I went to on my senior year, there was the group FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America. And I thought, well, I'll check this out. I don't know anything about it. So I joined the club, and everyone had to nominate at the very first meeting. They had to nominate somebody as a spokesperson at the table. And when they asked me a question, they said, oh, you'll be our spokesperson. And then we all had to give a presentation from our table. And when I stood up there, like, oh, we think we found our competitor for the state public speaking. And I was terrified. I'm like, what? And I actually went to Princeton University to compete in public speaking. I didn't win, but I look back, that was a big starting point for me, is that somebody believed in me. And that has been so instrumental in my life. Anytime somebody showed belief in me and shared that, like, hey, we think you can do this, or we think you can do that. That's so important. I think it's important for us as leaders to share that with people who are coming up along the way. When you see something in somebody, let them know, share that, say, hey, I think you'd be great at this or that, and encourage people.
No, that's really good. Renita Dawson and Frida Allen, her sister, were here, as I told you a little earlier, and they had a great comment where they talked about who's in their front row. Also those folks that really mean a lot to them, that they can connect with, that they can help also elevate. And I'm going to ask you, KT, when I see you, I see somebody who automatically, I just see somebody who cares.
Absolutely.
You don't even have to talk, and it's amazing. Your mannerism is that way. Did you know you wanted to do this since you were a kid?
Yes. I'm so glad you asked me this question. Funny story. Fourth grade, I'm born and raised here in Goldsboro. So I went to Carver Heights Elementary School. Fourth grade, we had like a day to where, or like a project to talk about what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember I was telling my mom everything I was going to say. And she was just like, oh my gosh, I'm a really big, Liza knows this about me. I'm really big on history. I don't know why. If I didn't work in radio, I probably would be a history teacher, but really big on history. And I just love public speakers and, those who could get out and do a speech. And it was during Black History Month. So I was talking about Dr. Martin Luther King. I was like, I want to be a speaker one day. And my teacher is like, that's it. Literally. And I remember that to this day. And she's like, that's it. And so my mom told me maybe a few years ago, and she's like, you remember that happened? And I was like, I do. And she's like, technically, that's exactly what you're doing in life right now, And it's so crazy because, when I was in fifth grade, I think I changed. And I said, so that's like a year. After fourth, I said, I'm just going to do psychology. My grandmother, she was getting her degrees for psychology. I love talking to people because I do care. And I said, I'm going to go to school for psychology. So I stuck with that all the way through high school. When I applied to all of my colleges, that's what I applied for. So I got accepted into colleges as a psych major. It wasn't until I stepped foot on campus and I'm like, I don't think I want to do this. It was like for open house. I was like, I grew up singing and dancing and in the arts. I said, I don't think I want to do this. And I went back to school after open house. And I talked with my then history teacher, Mr. Roderick Peterson. And I told him, I said, I don't know if I want to do that. And he was like, and my grandmother had just passed. She's very near and dear to my heart. And I'm like, but I know that that's the reason why I wanted to do it. Psychology, because my grandma, he was like, your grandmother will want you to do what you always wanted to do. And so when I went for orientation, I didn't even go to the psych building. I went straight to where they changed your majors and I changed it to journalism and mass comm. So technically, yes, I did know I always wanted to do this.
Right. I like the journey. You're talking about that, Lisa. It's neat, right? Because believe it or not, I was supposed to be a baseball broadcaster.
Really?
So when I enrolled in college, I was an enlisted guy first. In 1995, I got out of the military, went back home, and I said, okay, I'm going to become a famous baseball broadcaster. So I decided I enrolled in communications at Kennesaw State University. And honestly, I thought that meant I was going to be a baseball broadcaster. So I did no other research. I did all these communications. I'm like, why am I taking interpersonal communications? Where is the broadcast stuff? And like, Todd, we don't offer that here. At that point, I'd already entered the ROTC program. So I was like, well, I'm not going to be a baseball broadcaster. And that dream was gone. So I'm going to live vicariously through you all because
you poor man.
I like the way you said that. Well, that goes over to you, Jeff. So I don't think poor man. I see you every other Wednesday.
Yes,
and
sir.
I just absolutely, it's the highlight of my week. Coming in, sitting down with you, listening to you as you prep and get ready as the music's playing. Because I think all the listeners out there watching it, we don't see you all. Again, I love how you say theater of the mind. But there's so much joy going in there and you're excited about what you do. And Jeff, when I see you right off the bat, it just seems like your desire too is to serve others.
It has become that over the years. When I first got involved or even before radio, quite honestly, I was the guy that wanted to stay back here. I don't need the attention. I don't want anybody to talk to me. I don't want to talk to you. I'm not being mean. I'm not being I was being antisocial. But it took radio to open me up. And it took many years. I would always turn down live broadcasts. I would always stay out of the spotlight as much as I could. My thought was, if I get a job in radio, how cool will that be? I can sit in a room by myself and work and not have to deal with anybody. Not thinking of coworkers, other stations, live broadcasts, things like that. I think as far as like inspiration goes, every kid, maybe even KT at some time when she was younger, and she's a lot younger than I am.
I was going to mention that earlier, but I'll let you live it.
There you go. You see WKRP in Cincinnati, you see Dr. Johnny Fever. Oh yeah, everybody wants to be that. Everybody wants to, but there was no set plan for radio. I was working at a Reichel chemical plants in Newark, Delaware. When I started getting the idea of radio, because I was listening to the guy on the radio in the lunchroom. And I said, man, he sounds like he's having fun. So I never wanted to be involved with people necessarily starting out, but over the years, that changed quickly because I realized what local radio was all about. And local radio really is, you are part of that community. You are a lot of times the voice of that community. And your job basically is to bring that community together. This is what's going on. This is how we can help. This is who this is, and so on and so forth. And Delaware was one thing. But I will say 17 years here in Goldsboro, not only has it become home, it was home a long time ago, but I say the phrase, our community or my community, more than I think I ever have in my career in radio. And that's just because of the way this community functions. It really is, when you need something, like a fundraiser or people are coming on the air to talk about what they could use, usually Wayne County right there. We just had another example, Jackson & Sons Pet of the Week. I still give the sponsor, look at that. When I'm talking about the Pet of the Week, Jackson & Sons Pet of the Week.
That's good because they're a chamber member.
Well,
keep it going.
There you go. But after talking on the air with Graham Price, who of course is the executive director, that following week, the animal that was in the spotlight got adopted. And Graham said, I heard you on the radio talking about that. And so that's what kind of brought me out of my shell to interact, I should say, with community members and officials.
Yeah, I think it's obvious because you do have the impact, right? So you, even for chamber members, you say, hey, they can come on for a month to come and talk to Jeff, talk about their business. You allow me to come on. There's community rock stars. I mean, you're always posting somebody that you all have on there specifically because you're right. It is a special community. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And I think some of the things that the keys to this community's success is you three. For the 10 years that you guys have been here, for the 17 years you have been here, we can't probably do a really good job of saying what you've impacted, just know you have. I mean, all these businesses in here, whether it's high school, sports, education, all your sponsors, all the folks, you all have a huge role in not only amplifying their message, but also being friends with them and giving them a spotlight. So thank you for that. I would say from my perspective, that's one of the great success stories there. But Liza, you've got to have keys to success that has gotten you here. And one of the things that we love about this podcast is we've had numerous folks on since they started this 2-3 years ago. And we really look for those nuggets because I think that's where it's at. Folks are looking at you all as leaders in the community. And I just ask you, and we'll ask all three of you, what's been the keys to your success?
I think it's surrounding myself with leaders in the community. It really is. When you surround and I'll call out a few just because they're important to me. I think about Sherry Archibald. I think about Doug McGrath. I think about Aaron Fonseca. These are people that are leaders in our community. And I know I'm leaving out people. I'm just choosing 3 that I work with closely all the time.
She but forgot us.
These
or
are my
did
kids.
She?
They're so important to my success. They're so important to my growth. We all have something to share. We all have something of value to share with each other, to help each other grow, to encourage each other. And wow, I just can't imagine not having them in my life. They are such a big part of my success. And I want to be that for somebody else. Just give somebody else an opportunity, encourage it. I'm just so big about, I just want to encourage somebody to go for it. Don't be afraid. Step out in fear. Just do it. There are people who want to see you succeed. And I want to be one of those people to help you succeed, just like they have been for me.
You were so when I first got here in 2023 as Colonel Todd Walker, the MSG, one of the first people I ever met, and absolute kindness. How can I help you? What can I do for you? And then as the chamber president, the exact same thing too. We need to sit down, Todd, and talk about how we can work, but what more we can do together. You've always been great at one, making folks feel welcomed and valued. And then you provide, I know from my perspective, you provide just great input. So when you were the DGDC president, because let's face it, that downtown is one of the great crown jewels in Wayne County. And I'm going to need your help as we look to go to Fremont, Pikeville, Seven Springs, Mount Olive, because those cities, Eureka, Marmac, wherever we can and throughout Wayne County, we need to take what you all do here and help those other communities, and they want that. And so I look forward to working with you on those things.
Same. I'm excited about it.
Me too. KT, how about you?
I think for me, the biggest keys is family. Honestly, they really do contribute to my success because that's my home, literally and figuratively. That's just, so they really do contribute. But I think the biggest thing for me over these past few years is remaining humble. A lot of times people feel like, oh, they're superstars or, they're, and I really wonder, like, you really think that, but, people put you on this pedestal, and it's always a reminder for me. I'm so grateful that you see me or view me that way, but I still have to remember to remain humble in everything, because we can have it all today and then lose it tomorrow. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me. I think that has been the biggest key to my success, just remaining humble.
Yeah. And it's a great point, because, when you just think what you do as you're in front of the public and you're out, there's a time where folks may look at you in a different light, and you do have to make sure that we are grounded. And folks like Liza and Jeff, and like you said, your family, that's a great one.
Yeah. You see what is the saying? You see a janitor, you shake his hand the same way you would the CEO. Mm-hmm. That's my thought process. I never think that I'm going out here to be better than anyone or anything. And I think that's what has pulled people to Curtis Media Group Goldsboro, like you just said about Liza, and you that's the highlight of your week whenever you go see Jeff. When you pull people into that, it's just showing that you have some humility. I'm not better than you. We're just, part of the same community, so.
Yeah, I love that. How about you, Jeff?
Keys to success. This may sound a little different from what we've been hearing. I think part of my keys to success so far is early on learning to depend on me, learning that I can get the job done, because I didn't have support when I got into radio. I was told I would never make it. My own family kind of, you may want to have a backup. I talked too fast. I didn't have the personality. I was told over and over again I would never put butts in the seats, so to speak, when it came. I might be able to do a nighttime show and then overnight, and that would be about it. And those were from people that were in the business that I was trying to learn from. So that stung, but learning, what, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And I'm just going to take my notes, and I'm going to watch, and I'm going to learn. Learn for yourself, because that really is the greatest feeling of inspiration for me anyway. I mean, my family is great. Don't get me wrong. They support me, but they weren't 100% on board. They thought I needed something more stable, because the only thing I was doing was part-time, and I would never get full-time. And so if I had listened to all that, and if I had decided, okay, well, I guess they're right, I'll just do a weekend show or something maybe, then I probably wouldn't be sitting here. And I wouldn't have 36, 37 years of radio. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, was just depend on yourself.
Yeah, I like that. And that is a point, right? You weren't sure, where folks maybe, let me rephrase that. You knew you could do it. You were hearing different things from folks. Did you get to a point where you thought maybe this isn't for me?
Yeah, there were many times, very, very depressing times. Not to make it a depressing podcast or anything. No. There were many times where I thought this, isn't going to work, and I need to find something else. And maybe they're right. And I started listening to people, what they were saying. But once in a while, you just have a thing happen in your brain, and you say, what, I'm just gonna keep going and see where it takes me. Many times at different radio stations, you better get out of here. You won't last. This station isn't going to last. I've been hearing that for 36, 37 years. Yeah. And it always lasts. Now I have been let go. I've been used as a replacement. I've been, shoved off. That's all part of the game. Sooner or later, you're going to experience that. But I think as far as just always going back to having me, they always say that if you have a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life, which is completely untrue. you have a job you love, you work at it every day harder and harder to keep it.
Yeah, that's a good one. I have heard that one too. Honestly, I've subscribed to that. But no, I'm going to unsubscribe. No, I like, because you better work at it. Mm-hmm. You better work at it, and I think I like the way that you said it that way, because you face a lot of challenges.
Well, I always remind myself of that, because this, as KT said, this is a job where you have so much fun. It's a blast. You're involved with the community, and they do sometimes put you up probably a little higher than you think you need to be, or you deserve to be. But to keep doing that job that you love doing and having that fun, you better be prepping. You better be, yeah. I mean, I'm always thinking of the next show. I'm always trying to think of what I can do. I know like KT does her prep. What can I do different this time than I did today? How am I going to incorporate this into social media? I'm sitting at home having dinner with my family, and my son will say something. I say, I'm going to use that.
Same.
I'm going to use that tomorrow. Yeah. Write that down. I have a little pad and paper on my nightstand, because sometimes things just hit you. But yeah, just working hard and depend on yourself. And
no, I love it. I love it. But it also goes into challenges. Success it does take work. To get to success. But when you're facing challenges, Liza, how do you do that? It's interesting. It's kind of the same question as we talk about, your family support and stuff like that. But when we do face challenges, what are the things that help get you through those?
Honestly, if on a personal, it's prayer. It really is. That. Yeah, yep. It is prayer. And KT and I have talked about this a lot lately. Yeah. And it's funny how you go through life and you take a lot of things for granted. And in my older years, I wish I knew now for me personally, how important it is to read the Bible every day, to spend that time with God. I mean, there's going to be days, obviously, we're busy and we don't read our Bible, but I'm doing a Bible recap. It's something called the Bible Recap with Tara Lee Cobble. It has just been so instrumental for me in just learning God's character, and how, when you're a believer and you believe that God has you in mind, He's created you for a purpose and He has a plan for you. It's so important to have that relationship. It's not about going to church, going to a building. It is about a relationship with Jesus, is how I say it. And it's being engaged every day and just praying before I start reading. God, what do you want me to see in your word today? What path what is it that you want me to know about your character? And how can I apply that to my life? And sometimes we're hesitant to even share things like that, because I know people have been around me when I've been having a bad day, and that's I'm sure that's not pleasant, but
we wouldn't know.
No, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know.
No, she's perfect.
We're like brothers and sisters back there sometimes fighting. But there's nothing, as I've gotten older, there is nothing that's more important to me to know that I pray and seek guidance first, because things could have been differently for me early on in my years had I known that and known how to have that relationship. But I'm grateful to have it now, been able to pass it along to my children, and I see their lives and how it's impacted them, because every choice we make, we impact somebody else. And I want to make sure that I'm making the right choices, not only for myself, but how I'm going to impact somebody else. So it's very important for me.
No, that's wonderful. KT?
Honestly, the same, prayer. Yeah. And for me, and I was just, like Liza said, we've been having these conversations. It's so crazy, though she just said, I passed it down to my children. I feel like my daughter has made me better with my relationship with Christ. And when I say that girl is like focused, like, no, I have to go to God on this, and it has made me like, okay, well, maybe I did put some of that in you, but it reminded me that I did, and so that's honestly what it is. And spending time with my kid, she's just, whenever I'm having a bad day, that is the funniest girl on this earth. We're going to have the time of our lives. But yeah, prayer and just family time. I'm the oldest of 3, and I'm really close with my mom. So, whenever I'm having a bad day or challenging times, that's my go-to, God and my family.
Man, I could see you and your daughter maybe having a podcast sometime.
Oh my gosh.
How cool would that be?
When I tell you, she would honestly be the star of the show. Like, nobody would even know that I'm there. That girl is
All right, she's our next. We're interviewing her next time. I'd love to do that. No, thanks, KT. How about you, Jeff?
Coffee.
No, well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, basically, it's the same. God and family. I mean, I as you know, I wear my this is my connection, kind of, sort of, because I had church issues many years ago, but I never stopped talking to God. Liza has actually helped me a couple of times in the years with prayer. Over a couple of things. And it kind of brought me back into that realm. I'm not necessarily a church goer all the time because I don't think God takes attendance. I think you can talk to him wherever and whenever you are.
We could stop right now.
Exactly. Exactly. He's listening. So, definitely prayer. And I talk to God every morning, before I start the show, even in my car on my way to work or right before I get ready to go on the air. I always have a conversation with him every morning. And as KT said as well, my kid, Brandon, changed the playing field. When he came along, almost 14 years ago now, he really, it just made me want to do better. I mean, not that I was doing bad to begin with, but you're kind of you're without that kid role going on. You're not parents. You don't really, you just, you're doing what you're doing. And Lisa and I are, we're perfectly happy, and we are perfectly happy. But when Brandon came around, that changed everything. And now he's at the age, I know we all like for our kids to be as small as they can for as long as they can. But he's at a fun age, just like she was saying, the wisecracks and the jokes and the one-liners. And he's just a lot of fun for me to be around. So that's what kind of keeps me going.
The first thing that comes to my mind, so all three, Curtis Media, all working together. And I can't help but to say that what an environment. It starts at the top, and Liza does, and then it goes down. And what I mean by that is, how you are is how KT may be or how Jeff may be. You set the operational environment, so as we see it in many aspects, and you can see all three of you have the exact. It's really neat. It's good to see that in the sense where you're able to pray for each other and to be able to lift each other up as well. And so, with that said, as we sit here, Gage, I've enjoyed this. Before we get to our speed round, I love the question. One, we've got three highly successful folks. Please know, God bless you. Merry Christmas. This is going to come out in March probably. And so we'll still be able to enjoy the Christmas time then. Yeah. But it's certainly an honor for me. But I got to ask, and it's always fun. All right, Jeff, if you can go back to 7-year-old Jeff, what would you say to him?
Don't get the John haircut. That will haunt you for your elementary years over and over again. Yes.
I did the George Clooney Caesar one. It was bad in the 90s. Yeah. No. Anything else?
I don't know. 7 years old. My gosh. It was so hush.
Hey, because we're pretty close to the same age.
Yeah. So you that was to leave. I can ask her.
No, it's just back in the early 2000s. So, what do you think?
No, I think just basically what we talked about earlier. Go back and just make sure. I would say just go with your gut. Always give it a try. Always try. It's like I tell my son, you can't win the race if you don't run. So always give it a shot, no matter what.
Love it. KT?
For me, it would be you are enough. You are enough, honestly. Yeah. I didn't mean to get all sappy and sentimental in that moment, but seriously, especially in today's time, and we have teenagers, and RJ is just now going into his early, we see it on a different scope now that we're adults, but just being a kid, kids sometimes, they really just need that extra push to remind them like you are enough. And that would be the first thing that I would tell myself.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I love that when it comes from the parent. Yeah. Love it. Lisa?
Mine would be don't compare. If I could go back.
Good one.
Yeah, but it's so true. And I still have those tendencies, I don't mind saying I'm 58. I still have those tendencies at 58 years old to compare myself to leaders in the community. Why can't I work as hard as they do or work? And the truth is we all have a calling. We all have a gift. Be yourself and don't compare.
Ooh, that's a really good one. We do get caught up, and I'm, especially in your field, golly, there's a lot of different broadcasters out there. I compare myself often. I know Gage has got the same. That's a great one.
Yeah, it's important not to compare. One of the nicest compliments I ever got, one of the greatest compliments I ever got in radio was from a consultant for NBC Radio, I believe it was at the time, who had interviewed me and talked to me on the phone about 3 times, and then we met in person. And he said, the way you sound on the phone, the way you sound in person, and the way you sound on the air are the exact same. He says, that's rare. And he says, that's awesome. He says, so keep that up. And that's I think with KT too, she'll tell you, being yourself is the most important thing you can do as far as radio goes.
Yeah.
I used to be under the impression where you had to have that, channel that voice. But now, just be yourself. Have fun with it.
I love that because it's still fun to be here with you guys. I see you on the radio. It's just so cool because I want it. I can't even do it. It's going to be awful. All right, you ready for a speed round?
I suppose so.
This is tough. All right, Jeff, favorite band?
Favorite band? Anything from Stevie Nicks.
Stevie Nicks, love Stevie Nicks.
Yeah, anything Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks.
Love it. KT.
Maroon 5.
Well, I love Adam. Oh, golly. There was a song me and my daughters used to sing, and then
Sugar.
She's be gone. She will be loved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So if anybody's watching that and they want me to sing, just call me. Because I know that was great. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, Liza, how about you?
Can't go with band, but I will just say reggae music. I love some reggae music.
Okay. I grew up on Ziggy Marley a little bit. All right, favorite dinner. If you had to have a dinner.
Anything seafood, and if you put some Italian with it, anything seafood.
Ooh, shrimp Alfredo.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
I like a red sauce, though, a pink sauce, like a vodka sauce.
Okay.
I love it.
All
Love
right.
it.
I'll do that. Ooh, roasted chicken veggies. Jeff.
Surf and turf.
Surf and turf. Wow, we're on the seafood side of the house.
Yeah.
All right, favorite movie, Jeff.
Favorite movie, Jaws, Rocky, Rambo.
Could you imagine if you put them all
I
together?
have to put them in there. I have to put them all together.
Wow. KT?
Friday.
Oh, that's the first one. So good. Second one, but the first one.
First one,
Oh my God.
for sure. And it's I know it was hard for you to answer that. It was hard for me to answer too.
It really was.
There's
That's
so
a
many
tough
good
one.
ones.
Yeah, there's so many good ones.
Yeah.
Pride and Prejudice, Keira Knightley. version.
I
love
watched
it.
that with my wife.
I love
Yeah,
that movie.
and a little earlier I did, and Gage knows this, I'm going to admit it now. I like virtually every Hallmark movie.
Yes.
Yeah. I can't
Real
stop.
men watch Hallmark.
I
say it all
can't
the
stop.
time.
No, thank you. I hope my wife is watching this right now.
Then do not listen to my show at Christmas time.
Well, hey everybody, thank you so much for coming. God bless you all,
Thank
and
you.
we'll hear you on the air.
I hope so.
I hope so.
Yes.
Thanks so much. God bless you.
Thanks, guys.